7,800 people, in addition to the 18,000 from a few months back, and taking a $7.6 billion write-down on your highest profile mobile acquisition is not great news, no matter how you slice it. But that's just what Microsoft did earlier this week in the Nadella memo heard round the world. But are things really as gloomy as they seem for Windows Phone? We'll talk about that, plus new gadget news from Sony, Apple, Motorola, and more on episode 156 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology, that's smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, all that stuff you wished existed when you were a kid. I'm Michael Fisher, and I'm broadcasting remotely from eastern Long Island, New York, so please pardon the dip in sound quality. Chief News Editor Stephen Schenk is off today, so I'm joined from Central America by multimedia manager and Instagram photographer extraordinaire, Jaime Rivera. Hello to you, sir.
Yeah, that other news guy. Yeah, how are you?
How's
everything, dude?
That other news bro. Everything is great, Jaime. Thank you for asking. Podcast producer Jules Wang is taming the Hangouts beast from Boston, Massachusetts today, and the time is precisely 2:05 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard, or at least that's what it was targeted to be. It's actually 2:11 p.m. Good afternoon. Well, it is fun, everyone, to text and sext. If you're of legal age, you know what I'm talking about. It's also fun to make stuff, like with your hands. Last week we told you about the Pocketnow Weekly's new sponsor, Mod in a Box. Mod in a Box, a fine company headed up by former Pocketnow editor Taylor Martin. Mod in a Box is all about do-it-yourself projects that get you out of your hangouts and making stuff with your hands. They have a store with select handful of DIY kits starting at around $6. All of the projects ship free and can be made with common household tools. We especially like the DIY Android solar charger kit, since we're always running out of juice, which you'd know if you read my battery life editorial at Pocketnow this week. Get to it if you haven't. This charger can be powered up outside or with indoor artificial light, which is rad. We also like the DIY Minimalist Wallet, which is durable and sleek, allowing you to carry just the essentials, or it can expand to fit up to 15 cards if you're fancy. If you want to check out these and other projects from Mod, and you know you do, hit up modinabox.com. That's modinabox.com/kits, K-I-T-S. Woot, woot, woot. Daddy woot. Yeah, our sponsor told us to say that. What do you think, Jaime? Are you going to bundle that into your lexicon going forward when you're very excited about something?
Sponsors have made me do crazier things. Trust me.
Yeah, this is true. You made a really good Squarespace video the other day, Jaime. I meant to.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Given the very short time period they gave us to do that.
Yeah. Good Thomas View is saying "Go Cowboys" because of the different scenery behind me. Yeah, this is temporary, guys. We just need the Dallas Cowboys flag behind me.
Okay, so wait.
Yeah.
Wait a second. So you're in New York, which is, well, the Buffalo Bills are from Buffalo, New York, right?
Yeah. My family does not follow conventions regarding sports teams.
Because I remember in the '90s, these two teams went at each other like every season for like 5 years. The Cowboys always won.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know anything about any of this. I myself do not follow soccer. But
soccer, right? That's football.
Yeah. No, bowling is not my game. Why do I have to keep telling you this? Yeah. So yes, Thomas, thank you. Lazarus Soul Song says, I have to question the whole "be a part of the conversation only on a computer" bit. I'd like to be comfortable when watching YouTube videos. I don't know. Is Q&A only if you're on a computer? I guess so. So sorry, that's a Hangouts thing.
Yeah, you get the link, but then on the phone you get the link, but then when you hit it, it doesn't give you an option to.
Oh, I see. Well, while we're on this subject, Jaime, you've been here a couple times, so why don't you tell listeners? Maybe we have a couple first-time listeners on the show. I don't know. You get to tell people how the hell to participate in the circus ride of a podcast. From Q&As to email, there's at least two ways to do it. So tell the listeners exactly how to do that, Jaime. You know what the story is. Jaime, Yeah, also, Jaime, you were typing, so you were automatically muted for some reason. There you go.
I hate that. I hate that. I
that
know.
too.
So,
It's smart.
first of all, you could write us at podcast@pocketnow.com. That is the best way to contact us. Obviously, our podcast happens every week, and you can also join the Q&A, which is available right now. But podcast@pocketnow.com is probably like the best way to send us your questions, and we usually try to hit listener mail, at least 3 different listener mail options every single podcast.
That's
Did I
right.
get that right?
Yeah, we've been pretty good at it. Podcast@pocketnow.com. So yeah, but we don't have a lot.
Steven does that better.
It's cool, man. No. You were great. Jaime Rivera, folks, is the only reason we can have a podcast today. Well, Jaime and Jules, but Jules is reliable as anything. But the team members change up every week, and this week, freaking Steven's on vacation. Adam Dowd is in a car heading to New York, and I'm going to see him in New York City tomorrow. Hayato is in the same situation, I think. There's just everyone is not available. Joe is working. Adam Lane, we tried desperately to get him on to talk Windows Phone. He's got a big deal at his day job. So, and Jaime, somebody's cleaning up dishes in your background? Is that right?
Sorry about that. It comes with the territory.
I understand. All right, listen. Let's stop dally-lancing or pussyfooting or whatever the hell you want to call it. We need to get to the topic of the week, and it is not necessarily. Thanks, buddy. It's not necessarily all smiles and giggles. So I will delay it endlessly if I'm allowed to, which I'm not because we have no time. So let's go. Also, we've been 3 years on the air with this episode, folks. So good for us, but mainly good for you for choosing a podcast that you like. What I'm trying to say is thank you, for God's sake. Let's just move on. Ready? Thank you. Here we go. Microsoft. We had some bad news out of Microsoft this week as it announced not just layoffs of 7,800 people, primarily former Nokia people from the Nokia Devices and Services Group, which Microsoft acquired, but also a write-down, a charge in the amount of $7.6 billion that Microsoft is essentially signifying Microsoft is writing off more than actually the value of the Nokia acquisition was to begin with, which was $7.2 billion. The ins and outs of the business side of that are sort of opaque to me to a degree, but in any sense, it is not very good news. And you have people in the comments saying, well, no, this is just trimming the fat and making for a leaner, meaner machine. And while some of that is true just in terms of, an overly technical reading of the news, it's really, really not very good news for fans of Windows Phone.
It's terrible. Stop being so nice. Come on.
Yeah, it's really, really not great. Just to give folks, if you haven't read Satya Nadella's memo, which is where this news comes from, the cuts will take place primarily in the company's mobile phone business, as well as there are restructuring charges of $750 to $850 million on top of the $7.6 billion write-down. Nadella's email says, the CEO says he's committed to our first-party devices, including phones, promising Windows fans the flagship devices they'll love, but also says that in the longer term, Microsoft devices will spark innovation, create new categories, and generate opportunity for the Windows ecosystem more broadly. Our reinvention will be centered on creating mobility of experiences across the entire device family, including phones. Jaime, what does that mean to you?
It's the same typical BS that we hear by, it's something that was typed by somebody from PR that's like, oh, we can't really look bad. It's going to make us look terrible with our investors. So let's just create false optimism because we don't want to look bad in the stock market, which just fell a few days ago. That is what it is. I hate it. How can you fire somebody? How can you fire 7,800 people and say we're going to be better? How can you do that? That's like the most insensitive corporate talk that was ever designed, but sadly every company does that. Microsoft has just gotten really good at it because it's fired. I mean, how many people? I mean, how can you say, oh, we're firing Stephen Elop, which I'm not sure if I'm happy or not, but that was like, we should have gotten that indication. They got rid of the devices guy. Oh, what was going to happen next? And, well, this is what happened.
So, yeah, I like starting with the cynical view there. Jules is very helpful. 26,000 people over the past year have been let go under Nadella's leadership. But I want to say that it's not. I don't think, tactically speaking, this is the most terrible news. Hold on. Let's say this. It's terrible for the people who've been let go, and our thoughts are certainly with them, and we're not in any way trying to make light of any of that, because that's terrible. But sometimes, in order to, if you are in a position that Microsoft is in, which is that they're being forced to rethink a lot of their older strategy under Steve Ballmer, sometimes layoffs or often layoffs are a massive part of that. So I want to keep this discussion focused on mobile, though. Paul Mitchell in the chat says, "Why are people so eager to proclaim the death of Windows Phone? I expect to be a happy Windows Phone user for years to come and just don't get all the negativity. Love the show.
Yeah.
Every week. Keep it up." Yeah, so
I'm sure he didn't use Windows Mobile, and that's the reason why he made that comment.
Why? Because the Windows Mobile people have been here before. Is that what you're saying?
So what I'm going to say this. I used to work for a company. Like, the first company that I worked for 8 years was like this. Every time they would change a VP, or they would change the company's president or CEO, it was just the stupidest thing. They would start firing people like crazy, hiring people like crazy, and it just seems like if these companies have no clue what they're doing, it's like Microsoft has got the best talent in the world when it comes to employment, the people that work there, and I cannot believe that this is like a really interesting ship without direction. It's crazy. I mean, how many changes have happened with Microsoft after Ballmer's departure? I mean,
lots, but
seriously.
But I mean, the changes have occurred, but I don't think it is a ship without direction. I think it was a ship that was trying to go in many different directions, and what Nadella is doing is actually getting the ship, first of all, shedding a lot of the ship, and then getting the remnants to move in one direction, which I think ultimately will pay off in Microsoft's favor. But the question is, how much is it going to suck for fans of Windows Phone, as a lot of our listeners are, a lot of our viewers are, a lot of our readers are, and as I have been up to version 8.1, and still don't know how I feel about Windows 10 on mobile. But let's talk about that. We've been asked more and more often on social media, folks, whether we'll cover Windows Phone anymore, because it's very much gone to the back burner. So we are still covering device launches. We just reviewed the Lumia 640. Adam Lane just reviewed the Lumia 735 for Verizon. But by and large, they're not the devices people want to read about, because they're not flagships. So a much smaller portion of our readers than before are now asking for Windows coverage. And who can blame them? On July 4th, the last Lumia flagship, the Lumia 930, turned 1 year old. That was the last Lumia flagship class device. And if you say Lumia 830, you can get out, because it's a fine phone, but it's not a flagship.
It's not a flagship.
No. On August 20th, it will have been a full year since the release of any flagship class Windows phone. That's the HTC One M8 for Windows. You couple that with the high-profile banking app departures and other apps leaving the platform, and it's been obvious for quite some time that Windows Phone is just not going to achieve the scale that Microsoft initially wanted. But does that mean that it's necessarily dead overall? I don't think so, and that's not what Nadella seems to be saying in that, and Jaime, you're right, buzzword-laden memo. There's so much corporate...
Seriously, I mean, just tell me this.
Yeah.
If a Microsoft, and previously a Nokia, with all its infrastructure, was not able to make a phone platform successful with 7,800 people, how are they going to do it without the people? I mean, can you imagine us having to bang all the videos that we have to do a week, plus editorials, plus news, and slice the team in half? Would that be even possible? How could that be even possible?
I don't. If we radically changed our delivery structure, if we radically changed our tactics, which is what we're looking at here, right? So I don't know. Let's see what we've got. I've selected 3 sort of takes on this, or actually 4, from various sites that I think have got pretty interesting reads on the situation. The first is from Computer World. This is from Greg Kaiser at Computer World, who surmises that the Lumia line will be relegated to a peripheral position, the spot the Surface Pro 3 now occupies in comparison to broader personal computing devices, like a Google Nexus handset. So that's the bit of speculation we're getting from Computer World. Windows phones will not disappear, not yet. Nadella once again says, "I'm committed to our first-party devices, including phones." And Microsoft, certainly, even Nadella says in the short term, they're going to still keep kicking out Windows Phone handsets. But they've had a lot in the pipeline already. So really, they can just keep churning out what was in the pipeline without needing any of those people they just laid off. But the interesting question is what's going to happen later. And even with billions poured into mobile, Kaiser continues, Windows powered just 2.7% of the devices shipped worldwide last year, down from 3.3% in 2013. That's an IDC figure. But Jan Dawson of Jackdaw Research, who Kaiser quotes, says the timing just doesn't seem right for abandoning either Microsoft's first-party phone business or Windows Phone as a whole. And here we go back to Nadella's email. And guys, this is the crazy part. Jaime, do you remember in the Nadella email where he says, we plan to narrow our focus to 3 customer segments, where he breaks it down into 3 channels?
Yeah,
So,
which was enterprise flagships, and then it was general, I think, like lower tiered.
Yeah, so it's business customers, value-oriented buyers, and loyalists.
Exactly.
So, okay. But, and I love this because that confused the hell out of me. I'm like, okay, wow, so you're making it sound like we're just going to condense Windows Phone into those 3 channels. Okay, but wait a second. Look at that again. We're going to make phones for business customers, for people who don't want to spend a lot of money, and for people who are Windows fans.
Right.
What, isn't that sort of what they're already doing?
Exactly. I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? I'm glad I didn't report on this because I was like, oh my god, I would have trashed the hell out of him. I'm like,
and Jan Dawson agrees. Jackdaw Research once again. Those are the customers all smartphone makers, excepting Apple, target. They're the very customers Microsoft has itself chased for years. That's no focus at all, Dawson argued. So we're not the only ones confused about that, Jaime. So there's that.
No, I think that, again, it's really sad. What's going on is really sad. Again, the memo is just something that somebody from PR that has no conscience on tech wrote down for Nadella and he approved it. That's it.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go far as because it's not clueless. Nadella, if there's one thing we know about Satya Nadella, is that he's very smart. He's cunning, and I do think the Microsoft he's building is far better positioned to succeed than Ballmer's Microsoft would have been. I mean, that's debatable, but I think that's true. But it is frustrating to get this flowery kind of contentless corporate buzzword speak that we have to sort of sift through and pick through. Tell us what The Verge made of all this, Jaime. They're the next Tom Warren of The Verge.
Yeah, so we have Tom Warren from The Verge saying in his analysis, Nadella's restructuring will likely reduce the phone business, confusing numbering schemes and huge selections of handsets. But Nadella doesn't really clarify what it all means, simply saying that it will be a more effective phone portfolio with better products. Right, I'd like to see that. Then he also says, Microsoft has signaled to developers that it's okay to ignore developing directly for Windows on mobile devices and just port existing apps across. Combine that with some of the changes that Microsoft is making to the interface and features of Windows 10 Mobile, Cortana for iOS, Android, and a continued mobile push on rival platforms, and it's easy to conclude that Windows Phone has a very few unique capabilities anymore. And I do agree.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. I mean, what do you think about that argument about?
Listen, he's just saying, listen, I have my platform, but my platform is not successful, so I would rather bank on what is successful and try to make money out of something, at least some portion of the market. So, Warren is pretty much saying, he's just, again, I think he agrees with us in the fact that the memo is just the memo, and that, how are they going to be more effective and provide better products without the infrastructure? That's like the biggest question that's left. I mean, they brought all this expertise from Nokia. You and I were you remember when we were in Vegas and that how do you call it, the high roller?
Yeah, the big Ferris wheel thing.
You remember that. Everybody that was with us, that when they gave us the Lumia 930, everybody that was with us was from Finland. They brought a crazy amount of people from Nokia to build this Microsoft phone portfolio. Now they're letting them go. I would have rather they sold the company. They would have sold the mobile division back to either Nokia or somebody else.
You're making a good point there. When I forgot who ran the headline, I'm sorry, it just sprung to mind, but back when Microsoft first announced the partnership with Nokia, not the acquisition, but the exclusive partnership with Nokia to make Windows Phone devices, someone ran a headline that says, Microsoft buys Nokia for $0 billion. And it was a great story because Microsoft was essentially getting the milk without having to buy the cow. And the arguments at the time was that it was a very savvy move to make because Microsoft didn't have to spend billions of dollars to buy Nokia. Nokia was already doing what it would do anyway in such a situation, so that was very savvy. And then, of course, later on, Microsoft found itself in a position where it felt forced to buy Nokia possibly because Nokia was very, very obviously fidgeting around with the idea of maybe making an Android handset, and they wanted to force Microsoft's hand. But Dex Eve in the chat asks about that silly thought, but why did Microsoft take over Nokia? And did it to take one less competition away, or did it to take Nokia have a mobile platform despite the device? I sort of lost the thread of that, but that's a really good question. And the Jaime, what do you you have a thought there?
I don't know. I think that this was like a very interesting corporate play. It's like Microsoft tried to convince partners to build Windows phones. I'm talking years ago. Partners started building stuff that didn't make any money, and then Microsoft started losing ground for partners. So it's like, okay, shoot, I'm gonna have to grab a company and build my own thing. If Apple can do phones, then why can't I? And so, okay, they start the whole Nokia thing. They acquire the company. They start working on that whole thing. And I'm sure that once they started renegotiating the Windows 10 mobile strategy and how things were going, partners would have been like, wait a second, you have the Lumias, and why should we build for you? And so it's pretty much what happened with Motorola. Google acquires Motorola, and then Android partners started complaining about the fact that Google would obviously provide preferences to Motorola. And so it makes sense to me, the whole Nexus scheme that Jules was saying, that it could be that Microsoft is probably just relegating their whole Lumia approach to make it more of a Nexus in order to make partners happy. The problem is, where are the partners? When are we going to see products?
Right. Let's. The whole Microsoft Nokia story is fascinating and could go on forever. One of the best takes I've seen on it is from Stratechery, from Ben Thompson, which I got this content from a subscription emailed update. So I'm not going to share it all verbatim because you should actually subscribe to Stratechery if you want this kind of analysis, because it's really good. But moving forward, Ben says, Nadella and Microsoft will focus on the cloud and office productivity. This is speculation. Focus on the cloud and office and productivity, or the areas where Microsoft has potential for growth. Let Windows work to earn back the trust of enterprises to get the cash flow back up, and keep a small hardware operation that will enable Microsoft to maintain expertise and connections in China in the hopes of developing what comes next, such as HoloLens. And then he goes on to say, let me be clear, Windows Phone is effectively dead, a couple models a year notwithstanding. Microsoft's mobile future is apps and cloud backends for iOS and Android, along with continued emphasis on Microsoft's traditional enterprise strength. So there you go. That's a pretty stark prediction of just Windows Phone's end, and it's really, if it was just some guy.net, I wouldn't be quoting him. But Ben Thompson has written some of the best analysis of Microsoft, I think, of the past few years, and it's a lot of what he said has come true. When the Nokia acquisition was first announced, he wrote a great piece talking about how it made no sense and it wouldn't work out at all. And well, what do you know? I mean, now, write down $7.6 billion is right. It didn't go well at all.
Let me ask you: do you think that Microsoft is trying to turn into the next IBM?
No, I think HP tried to do that. No, I think it's important to remember that Microsoft has always been a software company. So are you asking that what they're trying to shift their focus to mostly enterprise? Is that what you're asking?
No. So remember IBM, they had the ThinkPad, and they had their lineup of products, and at some point they were like, okay, it's too... So the problem with building hardware is your operating ratio is much higher than building software. Obviously, you don't need to build anything when it comes to software. It's pretty much non-tangible. It only requires talent. And so what IBM
talent's expensive, though.
Talent is expensive, yes, but again, you don't have the fixed cost of building something that's tangible that you can't sell. The good thing about software is you're not going to be left with 500,000 phones in a warehouse that you weren't able to sell. And so it made all the sense in the world at some point for IBM to be like, wait a second, let's move away from hardware, let's focus on software, we have all these patents, and we can drop our operating ratio significantly and obviously not make as much, not make as much money, but make more profit out of the money that we're making. And so it seems that that's what HP tried to do, and then it pulled back. But it seems that Microsoft is like, wait a second, we are a software company at the core. That's the way we were built. Ballmer had this crazy idea of making this company a devices and hardware company, and it didn't work. So why don't we go back to our roots? And that's probably what Nadella proposed when he was offered or probably applied for the job. And this is what Microsoft said they would want And obviously, hey, if you're looking at profit margins, building software is a lot more profitable than, again, building hardware.
Yeah, it is really tough to make money in hardware. I think that absolutely, and you need only to look to Android to see the truth of that. Ending on a somewhat higher note, this is from the Win Super site, of course, Paul Thurrott's Windows Focus website, but this was not Paul Thurrott, this was Rod Trent writing an article entitled "Windows Phone Isn't Dead, It's Changing." It was the other side of the coin. According to reports, Microsoft will manufacture just 6 devices per year. The types of models that will be produced are unclear, but I can only assume that we'll see new hardware released in stages throughout the year with 2 large screens, 2 mid-range, and 2 low-end devices, all running Windows 10 Mobile, targeted toward types of people with specific preferences. And that boils down to Nadella's narrowed focus to 3 customer segments. What do you think about the likelihood of that, Jaime? You think that seems reasonable to expect for the next 2 years at least?
It depends. I mean, like Jules makes a really cool comment right now on our group chat where he's saying, yeah, but there's software and hardware. The problem is the software that Microsoft built for mobile hasn't been appealing to customers. It is a very interesting strategy. The problem is what happens when your product is not able to sell on its own, even in your own hardware.
Right.
It's like everything sounds beautiful on paper, but the problem is there software enough to gain the mind share that they're looking for if they've spent so many years in the back, they've spent so many years as an underdog already.
Yeah, and that's why the opining about Microsoft building, say, like aspirational Windows Phone devices, the Google Nexus style devices, the Microsoft Surface Phone maybe. It's all very compelling to me as a Windows Phone, as an erstwhile Windows Phone champion, as someone who does want to see the platform succeed because I like the interface, I like many things about it. But it doesn't strike me as, if I'm Microsoft, why am I going to do that? I'm going to build a Google Nexus style Windows Phone device to motivate OEMs to come back into the Windows Phone boat, assuming they're disillusioned, which I think they are. But if you only reached a high of 3-something% worldwide, and you're now at 2.7% and falling, and no one who knows anything about this business is really convinced that you can beat iOS or Android, why would you do that? And I guess beating iOS and Android is not really necessary. You don't need to do that. Apple's Mac OS shows that you can exist and profit as a small segment of the market, but the ecosystem problem persists, and it's not going to get any better. You're just going to stay in this vicious circle.
Exactly.
I don't see a way out for this.
Exactly. I think that again, Microsoft is just. I think that the company just doesn't want to show that it itself considers it a failure. They consider that they failed. And they're just not trying to show that. Obviously, the problem is when you have a.
They did though. Forgive me. I'm sorry, Humber, but they did. They just wrote off the whole Nokia acquisition.
No.
They said straight up, you're like, yeah, that didn't work out.
I understand, but I guess what I'm saying, and this is the problem with these public companies. The problem with these public companies is that they make strategic moves to make themselves look good in front of investors. So why do you fire people? Why don't you keep the talent and try to restructure and lose a little money and figure out a way to do it right? Well, because investors will not like it, and that's going to drop their stock, and that's just going to throw everything off the table. And that's again, I wish I didn't have to mention Apple, but this is one of the things that I like about Apple. I mean, Apple has had cases like the Apple TV or so many other products where they failed at, but the company is making so much money for investors in other products that even if they failed in these things, they're not firing people, they're not restructuring things and killing. They keep trying, they keep it there, and Microsoft seems to want to make people think that they're going to do that. They're going to continue trying, but then 2 years from now, they're just going to let it die off. They're just going to let all the buzz kill it and let it die off.
Apple, of course, has the luxury of sitting on a huge cushion of money thanks to their iPhone product line.
Yeah, and we're talking about a company that that was closed 21 days from filing from bankruptcy 15 years ago.
Yeah, which is fair. And that's a really good way to end up, I think. Anything can happen in this business. iOS and Android are established players in the mobile space. They dominate the mobile space, and they seem to be sitting on top of mountains of money that are just insurmountable. But anything can happen given enough time, and I think what we've what I believe going forward is that I do think Windows Phone is Microsoft just doesn't care about it to the degree that they used to, because they used to want to make it the platform that would do battle with the big guys. I don't think they want to do that anymore, but I also don't think it's going away in the short term or in the long term, because if you're a software company, you just can't ignore mobile, and I don't think they're not ignoring mobile anyway. They're still going to build apps, as Ben Thompson said, they're still going to build apps for other platforms, and a lot of companies make a good amount of money doing that. But I don't think if you have your own desktop software and your own tablet software, which they're betting on Windows 10 is what that's going to be, their future, chariot. I don't think you can ignore smaller screens. I don't think you can not play in smartphones.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, how many companies 5 years ago decided that they were going to leave mobile, and then out of the blue, one company, an underdog, ends up building the iPhone, and now it represents 60% of their income. I mean, if Apple is what Apple is because of the iPhone, it's just the iPad's on decline, the Mac was on decline this quarter, the iPods are on decline. Apple is only making they're making money out of everything, but
right, they're making the most money by far out of the iPhone. Right?
I mean, if imagine this, if the iPhone was a business on its own, it would be bigger than Microsoft and Google combined. It's that crazy. It's that crazy. And so, I mean, any other CEO that sees Apple's success with the iPhone would be stupid if he said, oh, we're going to move away from mobile. That's not the story. Everybody's actually jumping back in. The problem is nobody's been able to figure it out, and it's really hard to stop the momentum that Apple already started. That's the problem.
And, of course, it was really hard back in the 80s to get past, or excuse me, in the 90s to get past the momentum that Microsoft had. So we will see how this plays. Yeah, Jules is reminding us that it's 40 past the hour. We got to move on. But just to close up on with some user comments in the live feed, you said it, says Richard Fila. Microsoft is a software company. Acquiring Nokia was totally off vision and always smelt of desperation. I think Nadella is wise to the fact that perception is everything in the consumer market. Thanks for that, Richard. That was a good comment. We appreciate it.
Really good.
Arjun PC, throwback review of Nokia N9 in memory of Nokia and Lumia. I think that would be a lot of fun, Arjun PC. If we can get a hold of a Nokia, if anyone wants to send us an N9, which I'm happy to send back after we complete the throwback review, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll buy one. And Jules, you said it's 40 past the hour, and then you're continuing in the chat. All right, the way he handled it was, all right, well, hold on. We can't talk about that, Jules. We have to move on. You're the one who wants us to move on, Jules. No more chat. Do you guys even care about Windows Phone if we get no 1030? I know for me personally, Nokia was the only reason why I cared. If they do not continue the camera boundary pushing of Nokia, I'm not going to buy one. That's from Gaj B. Psh, you preach, man. I know a lot of people who still carry the 1020 because it's one of the best cameras you can get. Our own Adam Lane does.
If you want to crack up, I just ordered one on eBay.
A 1020?
Yeah.
No kidding. Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, crap, these things are going to become collectibles, but forget about the collectible thing. You just can't ignore the fact that nobody does cameras like Nokia. I mean, or did.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff that we will get to in quite a second, but then, all right, fine. Mod.com. Our very sponsors are in the chat. That's wonderful. Which would you prefer to exist, a Windows Phone Future or Star Trek Communicator?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. You know what, Mod? That should have been a tough spot. We should have had a tough spot segment for that very question. Mod is, of course, referring to the Bluetooth communicator that was announced this week from the Wand company, which I pre-ordered 10 minutes after it went on sale.
And how many did you pre-order, by the way?
I wanted to do more than one, but it's a little.
I thought
$150, so I'm not, But listen, we're going to be talking about that a lot. We don't have time today because I got to let Jaime go at some point. So we're going to get back to that. Thanks, Mod. Thanks for your continued support. Yola Users says, I can send you my N9. It's almost brand new. Get in touch with me. Michael@pocketnow.com. I love you guys, by the way, Yola Users. So you are the best. Please. We'll work that out. We'll give you a shout-out in the throwback, and it'll be a lot of fun for everybody. In the interim, guys, we've got to move off Microsoft. I know it's the big news of the week, but we've got to handle the news real quick before we go. As I say, it's going to be a tight podcast. So, Jules, sound the news bell, if you would.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I sneak back on you. Not ready.
You killed them.
There we go. That is awesome. Thank you very much, Jules. We got stuff from OnePlus, BlackBerry, Amazon, Motorola, Sony, and Apple. Holy crap, there's a lot coming up. Not a lot to say in the Windows Phone camp outside the major news of the week, but there is something coming. Apparently, leaked by Evan Blass, a Windows Phone selfie phone hinted at. It's got a front-firing flash, and it is going to be a Lumia, we think. What else do we know about this sucker? It is...
No, that's pretty much it. Just that it's going to have a front-firing flash, but no design specifics. This is and let me just ask you this, Michael, because you handled the Desire Eye. I mean, does the fact that there is a flash in the front really make a selfie phone a good selfie phone?
It does help. I was surprised at how much it helped. I think an ultra pixel is I think an ultra pixel camera in the front makes a little bit more sense. Hey, Jaime, is this going to be a Lumia definitely, or just a Windows phone?
Lumia, from what I understood, it was a Lumia.
Really? Because I'm not seeing that in our story. Lumia front.
I have it here.
Where? What are you saying?
Well, you have a good point, but apparently the sources, or Evan, he doesn't really provide sources, but to my understanding, it was going to be a Lumia.
All right, Evleek says he teases possible upcoming Lumia with front-facing flash.
There.
Yeah, but is it? Trying to go. I'm sorry. I'm reading. This is great radio, I know, but I'm reading Evan Blass's feed, and I'm not seeing a specific reference that it is a Lumia. But that's because he's retweeting a lot of pizza stuff and then BlackBerry stuff. And I can't see. Anyway, if it's not, the reason I get all weird about this is that if it's not a Lumia, it is possibly it could be a Windows version of the HTC Desire Eye. Am I totally off base, or does that seem reasonable?
No, it does make sense. It could be.
HTC, of course, did the One M8. So, that's interesting. Anyway, I guess we will have to see. Once again, we recently reviewed the Lumia 735, which Adam Lane titled "The Original Selfie Phone." It's a great review. You should go and check it out. But in other news, we've talked about Windows Phone enough. In other news, BlackBerry silently registers a very telling domain name. Jaime, you want to tell us the story real quick?
Okay, so there's a very interesting development. Obviously, we've been talking about 2 BlackBerry phones that will run Android, and we've been covering that. But out of the blue, this other company that's owned by BlackBerry ended up registering the domain androidsecured.com. So we started speculating over, is this going to be the approach that BlackBerry is going to try to do with Android? Are they going to try to launch another black phone, or should I say one black phone competitor, and just take over Android and make it more secure? And that's going to be their differentiation factor. But other news that happened yesterday have BlackBerry and Google partnering over bringing Android to the enterprise and making it a more secure platform for the enterprise, and combining BES 12 with Android and all the benefits in security that came with Lollipop. So right now it's a little ambiguous. We're not really sure.
The site is up now, Jaime. Have you been to it yet?
No, not yet.
All right. So yesterday it was just a landing page, or the other day. Now it is what we're showing on the video feed right now. It is a splash page. Bring Android to work.
Yeah, so that's it.
Working closely together to set new standards in enterprise mobile security for organizations deploying Android devices.
So that's what I reported yesterday. That BlackBerry and Google had made a partnership. The idea is to marry BES 12 with Android Lollipop and all the security benefits. And the idea is really to give enterprise more teeth with Android. Allow enterprise companies to be able to lock down phones or lock down features so that users can't use them for whatever they want.
Right.
It's pretty much for deployment.
Go ahead. No, I was just thinking of the parallels on this. I was like, wow, BlackBerry is yet another company that was really great at hardware, then the hardware went away, and now are trying to just operate as a software company, as a maker of platforms.
Okay, but that's the point that I'm about to make right now. think about this, Michael.
Yeah.
What phone is the President of the United States currently using?
He's got a BlackBerry still, doesn't he?
Okay, so here's the thing. BlackBerry is extremely famous for its security. If the toughest government agencies in the world use BlackBerry, there's a purpose for that. And so here's the thing. How is BlackBerry going to sell you an Android phone if they don't figure out a way to elevate Android security? I think that this is like a good pre-move before launching an Android phone. I think that this is like a really smart move. It's like, okay, we're showing you what we can do for Android, and now this is our new phone that's running Android, but it's a BlackBerry proprietary sort of platform, sort of like BlackPhone.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I'm thinking.
This was, I should mention that this, Jules, thank you for being on top of this. This was a shout-out. This was a shout-out. The story was broken by Jimmy Westenberg of Android Authority, a longtime friend of the Pocketnow Weekly. So kudos for the news-making newsman. I mean, what would I have preferred on this tab? I would have preferred to see the BlackBerry Venice, because I think that's going to be a really compelling device for Android users if it lives up to the potential. But I guess we can talk about that on another show, because we got to talk about another phone right now. It is the Amazon Fire Phone. You guys have one, right? I mean, everyone has a Fire Phone, right? I know you've got one.
No.
Yeah, Jules. Come on, sure you do. Jules has. Everybody has a Fire Phone. Who doesn't have one? Well, if you don't have one right now, you can buy one.
Yeah.
You could always buy one, but now you can buy one for the price it should have been to begin with. This thing started life at, I think, $4.99 full retail, which was asinine. It was $1.99 on contract with AT&T, which was, again, asinine. It was eventually rapidly reduced in price to $200 unlocked, then $190. Now Amazon is selling it for $160. Now, that's crazy. I've seen other people, I think Dan Seifert of The Verge was saying, listen, no one should try to justify the purchase of a Fire Phone. It's a bad idea. But, okay, Amazon Prime comes with the Fire Phone, and Prime gets you things like free shipping and a free 2-day shipping and a bunch of other stuff. So if you were already going to buy Amazon Prime, and you were going to spend $100 on that because it costs $100 for a year, if you're willing to spend another $60, you get a smartphone with Amazon Prime, with your Amazon Prime membership, and that's just $60 more. And as I said in my review, and I think I'm the only guy in the world who ever said it, it's not a bad phone. It's kind of fun to use.
Really?
It is. Are
you using it?
No. That's because Amazon wouldn't send us one. I got one through AT&T and was about to release on the embargo time as everybody else, and then Amazon specifically told AT&T, no, you can't let them do that. Only the people we select are going to be in on the embargo. So my attitude after that was, frankly, and cover your ears, everyone, fuck you, Amazon. I was a little pissed off about that, because that is some top-level bullshit, especially when you're coming to market with a product that was received as poorly as this. Nevertheless, I found that phone a lot of fun to use, and I don't think it deserved all the crap it got, even though it was priced really poorly to begin with.
I guess that level of arrogance ended up paying off, didn't it?
I guess. So Jules is telling us to look at the screen again, and it's $449 again at Amazon.com. So I don't know. Who knows? If you want a Fire Phone, nobody wants a Fire Phone, so I'm not talking to anyone. Let's move on. Could the Moto X Sport and Moto G Nuevo be new Motorola's in the works?
I'm really confused about these news, because obviously we've been covering the leaks of the Moto X and the Moto G, the next generations, but then out of the blue we've got specifications for... So apparently this came out from a Chilean carrier, and you have to remember that Motorola launches products under different monikers outside of the United States, and I apologize for the siren, by the way.
Oh, no worries. That happens to the best of us.
Yeah, so apparently, we've got specs for the Moto X Sport, which will allegedly have a 5.2-inch display, 16-megapixel rear camera, front-firing, 5-megapixel shooter, and we've got a quad-core 1.5 gigahertz processor that is not confirmed what type of processor it is. Sorry about that. Then the Moto G Nuevo, because that's the correct name.
Nuevo.
Yeah, Nuevo is a 5-inch screen, 13-megapixel rear camera, 5-megapixel front-firing shooter, 1.4 gigahertz quad-core CPU, and the reason why we're confused is, how are these specs any different to the ones we've already covered from the 2015 Moto X and Moto G?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, no, they don't seem all that different. The
I,
13 megapixel, the Moto G, I think, didn't it have an 8 megapixel rear camera on the 2014 variant? I don't know. No, maybe it didn't. Maybe it had the same module. I don't know. Yeah, no, the specs are not all that different, but I like that the Sport seems to be a ruggedized version of the Moto X. I think that could be a good decision for Motorola to make, because it already has a large subset of customers who need a phone that'll perform well under duress, like the Droid Turbo that I just after the buzzed.
Now tell me something. What is not rugged about the current Moto X? You know, it's splash proof.
The leather one, so it's not splash proof. Well, it is, but the leather will be ruined. But no, yeah. You're right. It's splash proof. It is. You can drop it probably without busting it up too much. I mean, I dropped my original Moto X a bunch, but it's not. It's not specifically rated. It doesn't have IP certification. It's not mil spec. They don't sell it as a phone that you can drop kick around the place. And I think they're traditionally very strong in that segment. Their whole Nextel lineup back in the day was just rugged. Hold up, I've got one right here. Check it out. Where am I? Where's my?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm guys, I'm holding up. If you're just listening to the audio version, this is a Motorola i580 from 2007. It is a Nextel.
Those were the days. Man, look at that! Look at that gigantic screen, man.
What a chunk master! Yeah, that bezel is, and the bezel is diamond plate, so you know it's rough. But for real, like jokes aside, this was a really beefy phone, and I bought one for my parents. And they had them for years, and they are tough on their phones. So, Motorola has a big audience that is used to these products, and I think the Moto X is one of their most impressive phones they've ever made. A sport version would be great. I want to say something before I forget. I apologize. I was a little crass before. I don't think it was totally necessary for me to go off on Amazon like that, and I apologize. And this isn't because I don't know. It wasn't. I tried to stay classy, and that wasn't very classy. So I apologize, people. This isn't about Amazon sending us review stuff, by the way, because obviously we don't care. I just feel like I was sort of a little bit of childish just then. So I'm sorry to anybody I may have offended with that. But let's move on from the Moto X stuff, which I never want to move on from, but because I already know that I'm going to talk about it all day, we should.
But before, let me interrupt.
Yeah. For the phablet? Yeah. Okay. Tell us.
Go ahead. No, you tell us about it.
Okay. All right. Motorola's Model 5137 has hit the FCC approval desk. It is measuring 153.6 millimeters by 75.3 millimeters, which normally we wouldn't go into talking about, but it is important because it appears to be larger than what we're talking about normally. It might put it in the same class as the 5.5-inch model codenamed Kinsey we've been talking about for Verizon. This is Stephen Schenk reporting on this. But this time there's no sign of compatibility with Verizon's networks. Instead, we get T-Mobile, AT&T LTE support and Sprint LTE support, but no apparent CDMA to match the older technology of that network. So what the F is going on? Are these incomplete documents? Is this a Project Fi phone, perhaps?
I'm thinking like last year was the year of the Prime phones. This year is going to be the year of the Plus phones.
Could it
be the Motorola's working on a Plus variant?
Moto X Plus?
Yeah, why not?
Perhaps.
I mean, they came up with the Nexus, and by the way, they did sell that. You remember that we looked for that Nexus 6, but the Motorola version, we looked for it at the Qualcomm booth when we were at CES, remember?
Yes, the Moto X Plus, which the back of which a reader Booth used to modify his Nexus 6 and deanodize the aluminum for a way different look, which was awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, a Snapdragon 800, we know there's a chance of micro SD expansion too, so this is going to be interesting. I think we're going to have an interesting year for Motorola. Here's hoping they don't have their press event in Chicago while all of us are at IFA again, because that was really very annoying. Please don't do that again, Motorola. Please don't. Jaime, tell us about the OnePlus 2. We know a lot about it, and we've got to hurry, but we got to talk about it.
Well, the thing is, OnePlus has been doing the job for us, like, fully. First of all, they've been leaking absolutely everything. They've been teasing the phone. We're pretty much, 2 weeks away from the launch? And they've been teasing that it's got 4 gigs of LPDDR4 RAM, which is the fastest RAM you can buy right now.
Yeah.
It's then the team was on Weibo's which was Reddit AMA. They were on an AMA recently, and they were like, "Oh, okay, we're going to confirm it's got a 3,300 milliamp hour battery." That's another thing they teased. And then, because there is so much speculation over the price tag of the phone, the company's CEO just came on Google Plus and was like, "Okay, I am confirming that the phone is going to cost less than $450." So
$449 then.
$449. Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing, because that's what you come out and say.
And so it's funny because like 2 weeks ago, the same guy was like, okay, it's going to cost more than 300. What was the number? $333, something crazy like that.
Yeah, something weird. Yeah.
And now we know the threshold, which is less than $450.
Right. Right.
So OnePlus has been. I mean, I've really got to hand it to this company. I mean, they know how to keep people on the edge of their seats. Like, seriously, they come up with news every single day of a phone that nobody's yet seen. They've managed to do an amazing job in not getting the phone leaked, and yet they keep teasing everything, and they keep creating that momentum. And I mean, that's how can you have an underdog company that didn't exist 2 years ago become so successful with the OnePlus One, even with their terrible sales tactics, and now they're doing it again with the OnePlus 2. And by the way, rumors from yesterday are that we are going to get an invite system again.
No. Didn't they promise that the invites were gone?
Apparently they won't be.
Huh.
Well, again, it's speculation.
Of all the things to beat up on OnePlus 4 with their tone deaf marketing, all that kind of stuff earlier last year, I think the invite system got a bad rap. I think you only do that if you have scale problems, you have ability to meet demand problems, and you need to find a creative way to solve that. And the invite system is a creative way to do it, and it drums up press in the process. I never thought that was a bad idea. And I even say that now. I'm on the invite wait list for Project Fi because Google doesn't care that we exist. So I'm sitting here waiting for a Project Fi invite like some regular schmo. And frickin' I don't mind it because I know that they're doing it so that they can hone it. They're doing it. They don't want thousands of people on that network because they have to do engineering troubleshooting on it, and they're doing a staggered release. Like, you get that, folks. And what do you get in exchange for your several weeks of waiting? What are you getting on OnePlus? You're getting one of the best phones you can get for a very low price tag. So freaking, deal with it. Invites are what has to happen. Sorry. But maybe there won't be invites. Who knows? I don't know. What's up? Let's see. Sony will never, ever sell its smartphone business, says Sony.
I'm not going to pronounce the CEO's name. I always fumble with it every time we're at CES.
Sony Mobile President and CEO Hiroki Totoki. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, but I know. But every time that they present him on CES, it's funny.
It's fast, right?
No, they have another name. It's not until right now that I was in China that I was talking to the Oppo people, and I learned that everybody, they decide on a U.S. name and they use it whenever they have to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, there was an interview from Arabian Business, which was reblogged by the Xperia blog, where Totoki addresses the rumors of selling off the business and saying...
no, he's not.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, you're right, Jaime. That was great.
According to him, and we've got to hand it to Sony. I mean, surely the Xperia lineup has really not been as popular as it should be. I feel that they deserve more popularity. Dude, my Xperia ZL, which is in a drawer downstairs and is 3 years old, just got Lollipop like a week ago. I mean, which other company does that? I feel that Sony has been doing an amazing job over the last 3 years in giving you more bang for your buck when you buy a Sony phone. And they've done so with software. They've done an amazing job. This is like erasing the old Sony Ericsson days, where that was like terrible. You would buy a phone that was running Android Donut, and we were in the Froyo days already. So one of the things that he said was that the selling the Vio lineup could have clearly built that indication they were going to do that, but they admit that wasn't such a good idea, and they are definitely not going to do it with the smartphone lineup, which is great.
That is great news, and I love to hear it. Somebody was asking me for a tablet recommendation on Twitter the other day, and I stopped to think about it because I don't think about tablets all that often these days. But I was like, oh man, if I was going to get a tablet today, Sony Xperia Z3 tablet compact. Did I get that right? Or Z4 tablet compact or whatever?
I think you forgot like one or two names there.
Probably so. But yeah, I'd get that one because their tablets are freaking gorgeous. And then somebody just asked me to after the buzz, the Z3 compact, which I have not played with yet, and I really want to. So absolutely, I will try to do that if we can get a hold of one from one of our suppliers. I mean, absolutely, they make great phones. Lazarus Soulsong again in the chat. Sony can own the mid-range market if they just release a yearly compact phone. Word up. I do wish they would take some interest in the U.S. market. But we are still expecting that Z4Z or whatever, Z4V for Verizon Wireless soon.
Okay, can I have that phone?
I mean, hey, come to the United States and use it on Verizon Wireless. It'll be fun.
Well, the good thing is Verizon phones are unlocked by default, which is great. But anyways.
Jaime, wrap it up for us. End up the news block with the Apple Watch sales estimates.
Okay, so MarketWatch. So this is funny. Clearly, Apple is either not meeting demand or I don't know what problems they're having with the Apple Watch. But this is like the first time that they have a product that they don't stand on stage on a keynote and say we sold 10 million Apple Watches.
Right.
And so MarketWatch is already claiming that the sales of the Apple Watch are on decline. Apparently, for the first time ever, Apple is not selling more than 10,000 units a day, which is funny. I was like, 10,000 units is a lot of watches. But you know, it's apparently they're in an all-time low, and they're wondering if it has to do with the fact that Apple hasn't met demand, or it's because a lot of people have their Apple Watch on eBay because it's not as hot as they were expecting it to be. But yeah, it seems that that is the current status of the Apple Watch. I can't wait for this quarter to end for Apple to be forced to tell us how many Apple Watches they've sold. I know everybody wants to know.
Yeah, no doubt. Jules made the point that they were sourcing a slice for some of those figures. We just want to have that covered. I was looking, somebody was doing some comparative sales of Apple Watch versus Pebble Time data recently, and I sort of forgot who that was. I wanted to look it up. For context, the massively successful Pebble Time Kickstarter had 80,000 backers. Estimates of Apple Watch sales were greater than 1 million on day one. That's from Andy.
Yeah, 1.5 million, something like that, on the first day.
Right, and yeah, I don't know. That is a massive debate, but it's interesting to see. I don't know how these figures are being generated, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple Watch sales were slowing down. Now, I sat with some extended family recently who I don't get to see very often, and a lot of them were. Two of them, so a lot of them at the table at the time, had Apple Watches. And I was surprised to hear them, people asked them, do you like your Apple Watch? Why do you have it, etc. And I was surprised to hear these Apple Watch owning cousins of mine explain why they had the Apple Watch in exactly the same way I always explain smartwatches, and end on the point that, you know, if you don't own one, it's really hard to make you understand why you might want one. And they're talking about smartwatches in general. So I think continues to be a tough sell. I think until a critical mass of people is wearing wearables all the time, you're not going to get the kind of word of mouth like, oh, God, it'll change your life. Because it will. But not enough people have realized that yet.
No, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, as long as the technology doesn't evolve.
And the technology does need to evolve. You're right. I talk sometimes like these are perfect products, and they really need honing. You are absolutely correct. But yeah. Anyway. Jaime, listen, I am forced to. I know you have to go. I can do listener mail by myself. So do you want to bail?
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Jules, it's time for listener mail. It's beyond time for listener mail, in fact. Bong bong. Let's do it, brother. So the first email is from Greg Bond, which is a really cool name, by the way. Who writes in and says, I use my HTC One Max for media consumption. Perfect size, portable, good screen size. That's awesome. This is the first person in a while who's written in with an HTC One Max. Aging with a screen crack, it's time to replace. Need 6 to 6.5 inches and 2 front-facing speakers with good volume and quality as the Max. Please help. Regards, Greg from Sweden. Extra non-important info, as I know you like it short. I'm 66 years old and had a real mobile phone in my car in 66 with a rotary dial, getting a dial tone, lifting the receiver.
Wow.
Working just around Stockholm and 2 other cities. If you called and told an operator where you were going. He had
oh my God.
His first PC was an IMSI 8080 built from a kit in the 70s. Still super geek. Listen to your podcast every week. That's awesome.
Greg,
Wow.
Greg, so cool to have you here, man.
Seriously, that's so awesome. Oh my God. Well, that's cool, Greg. Jaime, do you know what my recommendation for a One Max replacement is going to be, given those criteria?
Mm-hmm. Nexus 6 or what?
You got it, man. Yeah, the Nexus 6 is absolutely the best phone for these for those criteria. The speakers are louder than on the One Max. They do not. I don't think they kick out quite as high quality a sound, but that's because the HTC One family gives you the best audio quality there is on a speakerphone. The Nexus 6 is loud, it's clear, it's got a 6-inch display. So it doesn't have the best camera around, but then neither did the One Max. And it's got a big old battery too.
I ended up liking your After the Buzz on the Nexus 6 so much that I was like, huh.
Maybe it's Did you want a white one? Did you want to buy a white one? Like I want to buy a white one really badly? Yeah. Oh God, I really liked it. I've got it right here. It's helping me run the show as it usually does. Thank you AT&T for the extended loan, for getting to ask for it back so far, and letting us review it every few months. So yeah, the Nexus 6. I can't think of anything better for our friend Greg. Truly, I mean, listeners will probably write in if you'd leave a comment on the video thread if Greg wants to see it, or on the post at Pocketnow. But just in case he's got something against the Nexus 6, Jaime, another recommendation at all? Sound-wise, the sound is the kicker. You know, he needs front-facing speakers, and not a lot of phablets have front-facing speakers. But I know I've got a mind block. There's another phablet out there with front-firing speakers.
I don't know which.
Isn't there?
Well, the Xperia Z4, which is not a phablet, but it's got front-firing speakers.
Yeah, the Sonys, right? They do. Yeah. So if for some reason, Greg, you can't get the Nexus 6, you don't want it, the Sony devices with front-firing speakers they're quiet speakers, but they tend to be. Oh, Jaime, that old one, the one Taylor had for a bit, the Z3 Ultra.
Yeah, but it's too old.
Z Ultra.
It's Z Ultra, but it's too old, and I'm trying to remember. Like the camera was terrible. It was like a really.
It was before the Sony figured out their camera software.
Yeah. So it's a really bad phone, up to the point where it's no longer a Google Play Edition thing.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's move on. That was Greg. Thank you for your email. That was really cool. Do you want to read Jebediah's email, Jaime?
Let me get the third one. You get the second one.
Hey guys, I heard Michael say that Pebble doesn't do turn-by-turn. Oh, this is a correction, everybody. This isn't a question. So this is important. Yeah, I said Pebble didn't do turn-by-turn navigation, which doesn't out of the box. But I just had to write in, says Jebediah, because it's one of my 3 favorite and most used Pebble features. I've been using the Pebble app NavMe for well over a year now on my OG Pebble. It works great on every Android phone I've tried it with. It launches on the Pebble when navigation is started from the phone, so I don't need to think about launching it myself, and it shows the next turn and vibrates before the turn. I highly recommend you give it a try, guys. This is my first time writing into the podcast. I think I did okay. Yes, you did. Keep up the good work and live long and prosper. Sincerely, the Jebi. Awesome. Awesome. And he has another recommendation for Pebble users seeking apps, Music Boss. Yeah, I talked about that in the review. So thank you, Jebediah, for the correction. Excuse me. And as the newspapers say, Pocketnow regrets the error. Jaime, number 3?
I need to polish up on my Android knowledge, I guess, as well.
I skipped that part.
It's okay. Hey, feedback is great, man. It's well appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Hi, Pocketnow team. This is Carlos Moreau. Is that the way you pronounce that?
Yeah, buddy. You got it. You nailed it.
Thank you. Loved it. Okay, hi, Pocketnow team. Let's keep this short as possible.
Word.
What extra features do you use on your Android phones? If your daily drivers have them, or how do you use them? Like, for example, IR ports, NFC, heart rate sensors, barcode scanners, etc. What would you put an NFC tag on your business card to send people your contact information, stuff like that? I finally gotten started using NFC on my phone, and it opens up a ton of possibilities, except that everybody uses iPhones, so I can't use NFC for anything other than scaring them into thinking I've taken their money. Carlos, website maker, everything fixer. Lovely to meet you, dude.
Yeah.
What do you use? Because I think that the only thing that I use, and that's the reason why I usually like Galaxy Notes, are the IR port for the, controlling the TV. I really don't use NFC.
So Jules uses NFC for purchasing, but there aren't many terminals still, even in our forward-looking Boston offices, or they don't work. Yeah, I don't. I use the IR ports when I'm reviewing phones to see if they work, and yeah, they work. And the Peel remote, okay, there it is, and that works. And if I lose my remote on an occasion, I'll do this. But I don't do NFC very often. I'll use NFC to do tap the phones together to do the Android backup when you get a new phone, but that always screws up the new Android phone somehow, so I end up having to flash it back to factory.
I know.
So I don't use that. QR codes I use almost every day because we use AirDroid here in the office to wirelessly transfer files, and you need to scan the QR code on the screen to get it to connect. But aside from that, I don't use QR codes because, no, I wouldn't put it on my business cards because you know what will happen? Hey, scan my business card. You'll get all my content. Oh, I don't have a QR reader installed on my phone. Okay. You want to install it? Yeah, just give me a second to install it. Oh, I'm from the United States and we're both in Germany, and this is going to take 4 hours on the T-Mobile roaming. You know what? Here, why don't you just take my business card? I have 5 million of them anyway. Oh, you're right. I'll just take this card. And then
point being, the experience is so cumbersome. Never mind.
Word up, indeed. Yeah, no. And then what are the other things you mentioned? But barcode scanner. That's it. NFC is. Not really. I wish I used them more for that stuff.
I guess the only thing, and I'm going to admit it, the only thing that I actually use that's extra are a Moga controller to play old Super Nintendo games on my phone. And that's really like the only extra thing that I use, and I really highly recommend it. I love the experience of playing a game with an external controller, something that iPhones really suck at.
Yeah.
And so that's like one of the main extras that I use. Like if I'm going to play, I want a controller.
There's something I'm forgetting. I'm going to kick myself afterwards. But I use smartwatches. Like I'm like one of the only smartwatch champions. So I feel like I get a pass for saying no on this, right?
We both are.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. All right, cool. I think we got to go because I promised to let you go about a half hour ago, and we've got to get out of here. There's Q&As here, just the most upvoted ones. Boki Smoky Toki asks, "You guys have almost." That's a great name. You guys.
This is what I love about this podcast.
Me too. You guys almost have 1 million subscribers. That is true. On our YouTube channel, we're about to hit 1 million subscribers. Do you guys have something planned to do as a celebration? We do. We haven't talked about it in a while, but we do, and we're going to roll that out, and it's going to be cool and fun, and it's going to be great. So
it's amazing. It's amazing, right, Michael?
It is incredible. It's just awesome. I absolutely love it, and somewhere between many multipliers of that in monthly viewership too. So thank you to all of you millions who help us do this stuff. Fire phone is dead, all caps, says Ron.
Of course it is.
Yeah, we got there.
Of course it is. They just need to get rid of the inventory. That's the problem.
Move it out of the warehouse and make room for more UPS drones they're building. Best camera on any non-Lumia device. I'm assuming you mean smart device for MFR. I gotta say the S6 is really far up there, along with the iPhone 6 and the LG G4. If you were to press me on that matter.
I wish I would have received that LG G4 I asked for.
But you can get one of them. We got a couple hanging around. You can get one of them.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. I love doing this on the podcast. I get free phones after that.
Yeah. Well, maybe. We need a review.
But no. Honestly, I feel that whatever Samsung has done after the Note 4 is just amazing. Like, I despise using the Note Edge, particularly after Lollipop, but I put up with it because of the camera.
You put up with what because of the camera?
I put up with the phone, the Note Edge. I put up with it.
Oh, the Note Edge. Oh,
camera.
God, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you're right. The Note 4 had a really good camera, too. But the S6 camera is so much faster that I feel like it's just worlds and worlds better.
Right, and that is the problem with the Note lineup. It is extremely slow. Extremely slow after Lollipop. It's just stupid.
I want to end the show on Benzofly. Why not let Sony make the next generation Nexus phone? For the sake of helping a partner and giving a chance to others. Plus, they make good hardware, beautiful hardware. That will also force Sony to market their phones in the US more properly.
I think that would be like the best Nexus phone ever.
No doubt. That would be awesome. I don't think you're going to find any disagreements.
Like if you would ask me right now, if I had the cash, what phone would I buy? It would be an Xperia.
Yeah.
It would be an experience. I mean, I
Well,
love the
I
whole
wouldn't,
concept.
I
Okay,
get,
no, share. Please do share. Which one would you buy?
if I had just to buy a phone right now,
Yeah,
like for myself, okay, so I'm leaving, and I'm not gonna. I'm very happy with my Moto X, even though it's getting old. I would probably wait for the new Moto X, but it would probably be the Nexus 6 on Project Fi. But that's a carrier thing. You know, I'm special, Jaime. I can't answer this question.
Okay, but wait a second. I mean, you're a camera guy. Come on, you love Instagramming.
No doubt, no doubt. But I walked around a lot with the Droid Turbo doing the After the Buzz on that, and I found that even in challenging situations, I could usually get the shot I wanted. It was good enough. And the Nexus 6 is very similar performance there. So.
And something went wrong again.
Did it? Are you okay? Are we there? Am I there? Am I here? Are you there? Is anyone around anywhere? No one knows about anything. Jaime's frozen. Is Jules frozen? Jaime's gone. Okay, so it's us. And the 262 of the rest of you. Okay, well, Jaime had to go anyway. So we're going to end the podcast. But Kelvin Alonso asks, Michael, after using Jaime's back. Michael, after using the Turbo again, would you recommend it over a Moto X for a Verizon customer, aesthetics aside, as a Turbo user? I must know. Kelvin, I would if you need to beat up your phone and if you really need a quad HD screen for some reason. And it might last a little longer than the Moto X, but considering how big of a missed opportunity it was in terms of battery life, I would say that feel them both in your hand first, and then determine if you want the higher resolution of the Droid Turbo's camera. There's also a processor difference, but it doesn't really do anything, so it doesn't matter. You have to hold them both. You have to use them both. That's what I would say, brother. So I'm sorry. That's not a very useful answer, but it's the best one I can give you.
I was really sad. I mean, how could you have such a large battery and have it be so terrible?
Yeah, and from what Phone Arena's testing concludes, and from what I'm hearing from some South Americans who use it as the Droid Max 2 or Droid Super Max or whatever.
Yeah, the Droid Max, that's the name.
Yeah.
No, sorry, the Motorola Max.
The Motorola Max.
The Moto Max, that's the name.
From what I hear, it's really good if you don't get the US version. So the Verizon bloatware is very likely the cause.
And I was going to ask you this. Why don't you pop a T-Mobile SIM on that thing and give it a try, or AT&T, see what happens? It's an unlocked phone already.
You're right.
That's the cool thing about Verizon.
Well, you're right, but it won't do anything about the Verizon bloatware. It's still sitting on there, and I can't flash the thing. It's a review device, you know.
I know. No, the bloatware is there, but obviously the only thing I'm not sure you're going to get is LTE. That's the only thing. But give it a try.
Yeah, you have to check the band support. I'm not sure. Watch the After the Buzz video. Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, watch the After the Buzz video. Yeah. Watch our videos. Consume our content. Buzz fed. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for all the Q&As. I'm sorry, as always, I'm sorry we can't get to all of them, but thanks for sticking with us. And really, thanks for all your awesome feedback. And Jaime and Jules, thanks to you both for being with me on the show today. I really always appreciate your company.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, the high-quality cut of which was assembled by contributing editor Jules Wang, tweeting at Greenpoint0 when he's not busy forgetting to respond to email. Also be sure to find the hosts on the Twitter sphere. Jaime is rediscovering Journey and other 80s mainstays at Jaime_Rivera. That's JAIME_RIVERA. And I'm slobbering over the latest Star Trek and mobile tech crossover toys at Captain 2 Phones. That's Captain, the number 2, Phones. Pocketnow is also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google+, and it all comes together like tall ships, cold beers, and your favorite small-town maritime festival at pocketnow.com. If you enjoy the podcast, post about the podcast so we can keep doing the podcast. Share it with your friends who love mobile technology, and help share it with strangers by tweeting about it, Facebooking about it, and leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever else podcasts are heard, on the web or in the world. And remember, you can write to us for a chance to get your questions answered on the air at podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks to WERS in Boston for technical assistance. Thanks to our sponsor at modinabox.com. And most importantly, thanks to you for listening. We'll be back with more Mobile Tech Talk next week.